Alright everyone, welcome to Street City Studio. I'm John. Today I want to talk a little bit about props. Props that we use in our toy photography. Or I use in my toy photography because that's what I have here. But props are very important for what we do. Otherwise you're just looking at a figure or a diorama. But the props you use really help pull that scene together, right? Just like any kind of scene, it needs things to fill it out. Adds information, adds detail and texture. But a prop could be almost anything, really. But I brought or sorted out, got some props together so that we could take a look at what kinds of things qualify as props and maybe a little bit about how to use them, right? I personally, I could make buckets and buckets of the props, and sometimes I'll go through, I gotta sort, because I end up with piles of toys in a very disorganized kind of way sometimes. So I'll have to reorganize. And sometimes I'll organize things depending on if they're a prop. And sometimes I'll kind of keep them with the figures they came with. Right? Like, I've got this thing here. It's just all Jurassic Park props. Extra hands, flares, that little flashlight that came with that leaf that came with Ellie Sattler, right? And those are all just kind of extra heads, right? Shotguns. And so sometimes they stay together like that one. And sometimes they kind of just end up in a Tupperware full of props like this. Right? Let me get this in here better. Just zoom out, maybe. Right, and so I was organizing some of it, sorting some stuff out for some of these future videos, and I thought, well, let's talk about the props themselves, right? And so any kinds of things, I keep lots of things like these barrels, right? I like to stack them up in the background somewhere. I think those came with one of the knockoff Chap-made brands or something like that. World Peacekeepers, that's what it was. Same with a lot of these little props, I think, came from those World Peacekeepers sets. And those were pretty much the main pull for buying those, really. Because the figures weren't, in my opinion, very fantastic. But they came with things like these folding chairs that actually work. A lot of fencing kind of options, barriers. Now, I'm not even sure where this one came from. Maybe some of you guys can tell me, but I got this broken horse. It's kind of broken in the middle, but I love to throw that. I even have an extra half of it, but I like to throw that in pictures sometimes. Right. I have several kinds of road cones. Right. Here, let's clear this out here. I got that one. Got these beat up and bent ones. Right. I don't know why, but street signage, road cones, these construction horses, those kinds of things really fill a scene out well, I think. Right? I like to find broken walls. I know there's lots of play features on play sets will come with break apart walls and stuff. I was looking for another set. I had another set from a Spawn alley somewhere that I used to use a lot more. I can't find it right now though. Map off of that whiteboard that came with the let's see, World Peacekeepers. Right? I like little things like these, or G.I. Joes. Some of these other, I think this one's Metal Gear, but I'm not positive. These little C4 bombs or whatever. Right? Little G.I. Joe ones, Firefly. Little Walkman from Star-Lord from Marvel, right? I like that one. That one's good to keep around. I think I mentioned it in one of my other videos, but I like critters. I like to collect any kinds of little animals I'll see around. In case I want to throw them in a scene somewhere, right? I got lots of them. This one's here. Yeah. I got this one with his little horn. I like this one a lot. He's very detailed. Things like blast effects. I think this one's off a Green Lantern. Right. I find barriers to be fascinating and useful. Good ways to frame your shot, like I did with this one. Right. I got this one. And some barbed wire. Like I said, it's a great way to kind of frame your shot, you know, add some information. But like I said, I like some options, especially when you get into these borders or barriers. I really like these sandbag barriers. And once again, these are probably World Peacekeeper. Came with a couple extra sandbags you can strew about. Alright. And just like these crates, I got this big crate. I know, I always end up pulling it out, but I got this UFC cage, and I only got the 2 pieces. Here, let's get these out. And so I got the 2 pieces of it, but I always try to work it in like some sort of fence. Anytime I need some fence, right, it'll come right off of there, even if I don't want that blue on there. And I'm trying to think right now. I'm not sure how many photos I've actually used it in, but I try to squeeze it in all the time, and I end up pulling it out of the shot. So I think of it being in a lot of my shots, but it probably isn't in as many as I'd like it to be. I mean, on that note, though, let's move on to this. Right? Well, here's another animal I forgot to mention. I like to keep around Shipwreck's bird. Right? Things like the torch from the little Indiana Jones sets. Right? I really like that. That gets passed around quite a bit. And probably a lot like the fence. I probably end up starting shots with it more than I end up shooting it and posting it. I'll end up pulling it out of the shot and getting rid of it because it didn't work as much as I wanted it to. But that's how it goes, right? You play with it, and what works you keep, and what doesn't work you don't hold on to it. Something I've tried to squeeze into quite a few shots, right, is this Hobbit boat, or Lord of the Rings. I'm not real sure which it is at this point, actually, but I'm pretty sure it's I'm guessing Lord of the Rings, but I'm not sure. But anyways, it's out of scale. Came with the 6 or 7 inch figures or whatever, but I find that it works just as well in my scale, 3 3/4. And so I'm not going to include a lot of vehicles in here, but I definitely wanted to include that one. I've been asked about it quite a few times. People see it in the pictures and ask me where I got it, because they don't collect that scale, or they don't know what came out in that set. There's no judgment. I am not a memorizer. I do not know everything about everything, that's for sure. Some other things I wanted to touch on. I'll get into this. Ooh. This Jurassic Park box that I had mentioned before, man. And some of these props are better than others for sure, but that flashlight's cool. Alright, but these road flares, especially if you get the one from an Ian Malcolm with that extra white paint on the tips. Right, that road flare is a great accessory. And I mean, at this point, I've got so many of them. You could probably paint the white on the tips if you really wanted to, even. Right, but even things as small as these little flashlights. Right. Trying to see what else is in here. I'm not going to talk about every little arm and every little head swap here. But definitely torches, flashlights, those kinds of things, when you're shooting, they become a lot more important than you might have realized before the shoot. I got a bunch of Boss Fight Studios kinds of accessories. And once again, I'm not going to talk about every extra hand or every extra head, but I did want to pull it out and talk about a couple of these accessories that are in here. Right. That wizard I got came with these potions. Right. That little rat, mouse. Let's see if we can get in there closer. There we go. Look at that mouse. Yeah, that's a nice one. I like that one. I know Todd McFarlane figures used to come with all these stands, these bases, and I'll use them a lot of times, even though they're out of scale. And if you take a look here, we'll use Deadpool here for if you hold a 3 3/4 inch figure up and look at them, the skeletons are almost 3 3/4. Right? And so I like to use those, put them into a shot, make it look that much more gruesome and morbid. Oh, I just found one of them other road cones I mentioned. See, so that's at least 3 different types of road cones I've got here, right? solid yellow, the red and white, and then yellow and white. But not just these Todd McFarlane base stands. Well, I suppose this was from an anti-venom, but I like to use that brick and stuff when I can. I've got a couple others that are pretty useful, and just like that other one, right? This is from a Thor figure that was 7-inch, I think, or whatever. But again, if we pull Deadpool in here and come, I'm trying to move this a little bit there. All right, stand him right here. You lift that right next to him. That's just about a 3 3/4 skeleton. Right? And so that's something I do. I have a 3 3/4 Boss Fight Studio skeleton right here that I use as Death or the Grim Reaper. But anytime I need to squeeze in a few more skeletons, that's always an option, right? I squeeze a couple of these guys in there like that. Right? I'm trying to think. I got all kinds of odds and ends laying around, but I think some of those are definitely key things that you might not think about too much, like chairs. You know, your toys don't need to sit down. But when you go to shoot a scene and you realize there's no chairs in this fictional world of G.I. Joe or fictional world of Star Wars, they need things like chairs and tables, right? Well, boxes and barrels in the background. Appropriate animals in the environment if it calls for it, right? Things like flashlights and torches. What kinds of props do you guys like to use? I'll probably call that it for today, but I appreciate you guys joining me. Keep playing with them toys. I'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you.